Captain Victoria Drake had faced many absurdities in her time: temporal mishaps, spontaneous pirate symphonies, and the occasional sentient coffee mug. But this took the biscuit, the mug, and the entire interstellar bakery. She narrowed her eyes at the massive holographic display in front of her, the swirling emblem of the would-be invaders spinning lazily in space like a child's bad school project. "You have got to be kidding me," she muttered, her voice dry enough to desiccate a planet. "Ma'am," said her first officer, Commander Jimmy O'Connor, barely keeping it together, "I think they're serious." "Dead serious?" "Please repeat the transmission," Victoria said flatly, rubbing her temple like she could press logic back into the universe. Lieutenant Rodriguez, manning communications and trying not to laugh, complied. Message reads: "Immediate and unconditional surrender to the glorious eternal dominion of the unified stellar species." They're abbreviating it to GEDUS. Victoria stared at him. "So, GEDUS?" "Yup." Jimmy couldn't hold it anymore and let out a snort. "They're calling themselves JIDUS." "I swear," Victoria said with a sigh, "if one more alien species tries to conquer Earth with an acronym that sounds like an off-brand cereal, I'm going to start weaponizing puns." "Wouldn't be the worst idea, ma'am," Jimmy replied. "Some of them can't handle sarcasm. A pun might be considered a war crime. Put them on screen." The main display flickered, revealing a delegation of textbook cliché aliens: large oval heads, huge glossy black eyes, shimmering metallic jumpsuits. Victoria blinked. Even Chief Engineer Watson, tough as nails and usually unmoved by the bizarre, snorted hard enough to nearly eject her coffee through her nose. "Cease your primitive vocal expressions of defiance," the lead alien demanded in a voice that was supposed to be menacing, but sounded like helium met an angry librarian. "We are the supreme civilization of this galaxy. Our technology is beyond your comprehension." Victoria composed herself, offering the thinnest veneer of diplomacy. "My sincerest apologies. What should I call you?" "I am Grand Overseer, EXI Litholoths, of the 7th Conquest Fleet." "Right," she said smoothly. "Can I call you Jack?" Rodriguez fell out of his chair. Watson wheezed. Jimmy openly high-fived a nearby ensign. Jack was not amused. "You dare mock us? We have already scanned your vessel. You are barely a Category 3 civilization." Victoria leaned back in her chair. "Did your scans include our power systems?" There was a pause. One of the background aliens nervously fiddled with a data pad. "According to these readings, you're using controlled micro-singularities as power sources." "Oh, those," Jimmy said brightly. "Yeah, those are just for the smaller ships. Our big ones use artificial vacuum collapse engines now. Better for sustainability. We're very green." Jack made a choking noise. "You're still using chemical warheads," he barked. "Missiles, so primitive." Rodriguez tilted his head. "You mean the nukes?" "Oh, no, those are for point defense. Real weapons are quantum state disruptors." "The what?" "Quantum state disruptors," Victoria said casually. "They rewrite matter's waveform. Handy when you want a battleship to decide it's actually antimatter. Bit messy, though. Cleanup's a nightmare." One of the aliens in the background quietly fainted. "But you only achieved faster-than-light travel 3 decades ago." Jack stammered. "We were busy," Jimmy said. "Built a few alternate timelines. One of them had pirates, another had sentient potatoes. Paperwork's a nightmare." "The name of your ship," Jack gasped. "Irreverent. You named your warship after a lack of respect for authority." "It's a family tradition," Victoria beamed. "Our flagship's called Why Not? As in, why would you violate causality and fold time into a pretzel? And our engineers say, why not?" Jack finally snapped. We need to consult the High Council. Please remain where you are." And please do not break anything fundamental while we're gone. The feed cut off with a hiss. Victoria turned to her crew, taking bets on whether they come back. No bet. Jimmy laughed. Did you see their faces when we mentioned QS disruptors? They haven't even seen the probability drive, Watson said, or the universe in a box. We keep that one under the bed, Rodriguez added, for emergencies. Victoria stood and stretched. Let's report this to command. But let's skip telling them about the part where we accidentally weaponized sarcasm. Again. Rodriguez grinned. Oh, and the Jidus fleet is retreating. Typical, Victoria said, deadpan. One peek at our tech, and the galactic neighborhood pulls the blinds and pretends they're not home. The Irreverent resumed its patrol, silently slipping through the stars. Another alien civilization had arrived, postured, threatened, and then fled in the face of humanity's greatest weapon, complete and utter disregard for how reality was suppository to work. The command deck of the UES Irreverent was unusually quiet, not from fear or tension, but because the entire bridge crew was holding back another round of uncontrollable laughter. Commander Jimmy O'Connor stood beside Captain Victoria Drake, one hand resting on the console, the other clutching his ribs. They named themselves the glorious eternal dominion of the unified stellar species, he managed to say between snorts. GDUS, or Jidus. Which sounds suspiciously like got us, Victoria replied, deadpan. And they want what again? Lieutenant Rodriguez tapped his console, his face the picture of stoic professionalism, aside from the visible twitch at the corner of his mouth. They demand our immediate and unconditional surrender, citing our primitive grasp of galactic protocol and science. A beat of silence. And then they said we must submit or be deconstructed to harmonious particulate form, Rodriguez added, quoting the alien transmission from memory. I think one of them was using a space thesaurus. Jimmy said. Victoria sighed and turned toward the center console. Patch them in again. The holographic screen shimmered to reveal the delegation of Jidus, the same alien trio as before, impossibly smooth gray skin, oversized black eyes, towering heads that pulsed faintly when they spoke, and metallic robes that looked like rejected Halloween costumes. You have not complied with our terms, said the lead alien, who had identified himself with the utterly unpronounceable name Yexilithoaloths, which Victoria had already mentally renamed Jack. We are the peak of cosmic evolution, Jack declared. We achieved interstellar mastery, while your species still warred over water and waste. Yeah, but we invented sarcasm, Jimmy whispered. Top that space egg. Victoria clasped her hands behind her back. We appreciate your interest in our planet. However, before we even consider surrendering, we suggest you revisit your scans of our vessel. The alien looked unimpressed. We have already analyzed your craft. Its core output does not exceed Category 3 status on the development scale. You barely qualify as sapient. There was a murmur of suppressed amusement across the Irreverence bridge. I see, Victoria said smoothly. Rodriguez. He tapped a few commands. Engaging visual overlay. A glowing 3D schematic materialized beside the alien feed, displaying the ship's energy core in real time. The readings were absurd, spiking, flickering, defying expected laws of physics like a rebellious teenager flipping off the universe. What is that? Jack asked, blinking faster than biologically advisable. That, Victoria said sweetly, is our quantum singularity power core. We use it for light travel, coffee brewing, and, on special occasions, summoning eldritch beings to judge our science fair projects. Blasphemy, one of the other aliens hissed. That violates at least 16 foundational axioms of galactic physics. Jimmy leaned forward. 17. We just broke one last week testing the Nope drive. Jack recoiled. The what? The Nope drive, Rodriguez confirmed. It runs on quantum probability and social discomfort. When things get awkward, we teleport to a less embarrassing point in space-time. That's not possible. Neither is your fashion sense. Watson quipped from engineering, but here we are. You mock us, Jack said, indignant. We have subdued 12 galactic sectors. Our weaponry can reduce moons to molecular memories. Sounds adorable, Victoria replied. But we've got nukes for mosquito bites, paradox engines for jokes, and an AI who took up interpretive dance and once hacked a solar flare. Captain, Rodriguez interrupted, they're retreating. Already? Jimmy blinked. That was fast. Did we even get to the backup universe in a box? Nope, Watson said. Didn't even have to mention our experiments in musical black hole resonance. On screen, the alien delegation looked rattled. One of them was visibly trembling, muttering what sounded like, "These beings are untethered. Reality rejects them." "I think they finally scanned the rest of our ship," Victoria mused. "Jack." There was a pause. Jack looked up slowly, horror etched into every oversized feature. This is not over." Victoria smiled. "Pure, human mischief in uniform. We hope it is." The transmission cut out. A beat. "Well," Jimmy clapped his hands. "Who's up for a round of celebratory gravity dodgeball?" Victoria chuckled. "Let's write up the report for command first. I want to get ahead of the questions about why another alien race has decided to flag Earth with a do not engage advisory." "I'll pull the file," Rodriguez said. "We'll file it under reasons the galaxy thinks we're cursed." Victoria nodded toward her console. "And someone make sure we don't accidentally activate the quantum confessional AI again. Last time it ran a therapy session for our missiles and gave them an existential crisis." As the crew dispersed to resume duties, the irreverent drifted silently through the stars. Somewhere, an alien fleet limped home, carrying a simple message: do not mess with humans, especially the ones who laugh in the face of causality. The UES irreverent cruised through space at a leisurely pace, reality politely rearranging itself around the wake of the Nope Drive like an awkward party guest making room for someone who clearly didn't want to be there. Captain Victoria Drake sat in her command chair, arms folded, watching as the chronometer on her console flickered through a variety of emojis instead of time units. It had been doing that ever since last week, when time developed a sense of humor. "Captain's log," she muttered, voice dry. "Stardate. Look, even time is trolling us now. It's been 3 days since the Nope Drive's debut, and we've officially broken something. We don't know what, but something." Commander Jimmy O'Connor, always the enthusiastic disaster cheerleader, popped his head up from behind a console. "Good news, Captain. The doors learned manners." She blinked. "What?" He gestured. The ready room door chimed softly, waited politely for permission, then slid open with the gentle whoosh of someone not wanting to interrupt. Rodriguez walked in holding a data pad that was visibly sighing. "Captain, you might want to see this. Command just sent us a formal inquiry asking if we've, quote, accidentally anthropomorphized fundamental constants again." Victoria massaged her temples. "Again." Jimmy looked up. "Gravity filed a complaint. Says it's tired of being called weak." "Great. What else?" Rodriguez cleared his throat. "The strong nuclear force has started a podcast. Entropy's writing an autobiography titled Eventually Everything Falls Apart. And dark matter wants therapy." A pause. "You know," Victoria said slowly, "I thought I was ready for anything. But now the universe is having feelings." "It's not our fault," Jimmy said defensively. "We just built a faster-than-light drive that runs on the urge to avoid awkward conversations. And now space-time is emotionally self-aware," Victoria deadpanned. "Wonderful." The view screen flashed suddenly, displaying an incoming transmission. On it appeared a shimmering, translucent creature that looked like a jellyfish made of origami and starlight. Its tendrils waved like they were sighing. "Greetings, humans," it intoned with practiced drama. "I am conceptualist V of the harmonious collective of the achieved perfection." Victoria blinked. "That sounds exhausting." V ignored her. "You stand accused of defiling the natural laws of progression. By developing your nope drive, the way it said the term suggested it had swallowed a lemon made of regret, you have forced reality into self-reflection. That is not allowed." Jimmy raised his hand. "With all due respect, who made that rule?" "The consensus of conceptual harmony." V replied, practically vibrating. "Progress must be tidy, linear, and free of emotional subtext." "So you're upset because our drive made the universe awkward?" Victoria asked, incredulous. "Yes." V exploded. "Black holes are flinching. Stars are dimming in embarrassment. The Higgs field sent us a passive-aggressive note about personal space." Rodriguez looked up from his console. Captain, their fleet one of their cruisers just side-shuffled behind a moon." "What?" Victoria spun to the screen. "Looks like the targeting systems caught second-hand shame. They're hiding. One's pulsing in Morse code, sorry." Jimmy sipped his tea. "Would now be a good time to mention we gave Particle Entanglement a Twitter account." "No, it would not," Victoria snapped. V's bioluminescence began pulsing erratically. "We demand that you cease using the Nope drive immediately, turn over all related research, and attend a galactic ethics hearing about cosmological behavior." Victoria leaned forward. "Okay, listen, V. We didn't mean to break the universe. We were just trying to avoid awkward eye contact with hostile fleets. If you're mad about what we did to physics, maybe physics should stop being so uptight. That is blasphemy." "No," Jimmy said, grinning. "That's humanity." The call cut out. A moment later, 3 of the alien ships promptly performed what could only be described as a collective nope. They blinked out of existence, reappearing several million kilometers away, hiding behind space debris. Rodriguez turned around. "Captain, they retreated behind a comet. One of them left a note in neutrino pulses. It reads, 'We need space.'" "Of course they did," Victoria muttered. "So meeting adjourned?" "Not quite," said Maya from Tactical. "New transmission. From, the fundamental constant of causality." Victoria stood. "You've got to be joking. It says it's considering going on sabbatical unless someone acknowledges its emotional labor." Jimmy smirked. "We should probably schedule a team-building retreat. Maybe teach the forces of the universe about emotional regulation." Victoria raised her hand. "Okay, new rule. No more drives that break the mind of space-time." Rodriguez nodded. "Too late. Time already left a sticky note on the chronometer. BRB, finding myself." Victoria stared at it. The clock winked. There were a lot of things Captain Victoria Drake had expected when joining the United Earth Stellar Fleet. Diplomacy, danger, the occasional spatial anomaly threatening to erase causality. What she hadn't planned for was becoming the unofficial therapist for the emotional fallout of a universe that now understood shame. The bridge of the UES Irreverent hummed with activity, or more accurately, hummed with the awkward sounds of a sentient navigation system trying to quietly apologize for mispronouncing a planet's name the previous day. Rodriguez leaned over from his console. "Captain, I think we might have a situation." "You think or you know?" Victoria asked, eyeing her rapidly blinking coffee mug. It had developed mood lighting last week and had become emotionally needy since. "Well," Rodriguez hesitated. "A black hole is following us." Jimmy nearly dropped his drink. "Come again." Rodriguez gestured to the main screen. "It's, pacing us, like a puppy, at a respectful distance." The screen lit up with the image of a black hole, orbiting quietly behind them. Every time the irreverent shifted course, the singularity subtly adjusted. Is it doing anything aggressive? Victoria asked. No, Rodriguez said, but it did send a micropulse through subspace. I ran it through the linguistics AI. It translates to, hey, you okay? The bridge was silent for a beat. Well, Jimmy muttered, we finally broke the universe so hard, black holes are checking in on our emotional state. Victoria turned to Watson at engineering. Any idea why a singularity would care about us? Watson blinked. Captain, it might be our fault. Go on. Well, she started carefully. Remember how the Nope drive interacts with probability fields, and how the quantum substrate has been responding to social cues. Unfortunately, I think, Watson said, we accidentally anthropomorphized gravity wells. Anthro what? They want hugs, Captain. Jimmy translated. The void wants hugs. Rodriguez cleared his throat. There's more. The black hole, it named itself. Victoria stood up slowly. It what? Yeah, according to the signal it's broadcasting, it calls itself. Kevin. Jimmy's eyes lit up. Kevin the black hole. No, Rodriguez corrected. Kevin, seeker of warmth and acceptance. Victoria sat back down. Of course it is. Just then, the communications console beeped. Incoming transmission, Maya said, from Kevin. Put it through. The screen displayed a swirling mass of gravitational distortion, overlaid with a soft glow and a pair of animated eyes someone had clearly added to be more relatable. A low, slow, gentle voice spoke. Hello, UES Irreverent. I am Kevin. I noticed you seem tense. I, too, consume all things. Emotionally, I relate. Victoria pinched the bridge of her nose. Kevin, buddy, why are you following us? You radiate existential discomfort. Kevin replied with audible concern. I thought perhaps you needed a friend. Rodriguez's console beeped again. Captain, a nearby neutron. Stark just pinged us with a you up message. I think Kevin started a support group. Oh, great, Jimmy said. We've created cosmic therapy sessions. Kevin swirled gently. I have read your historical archives. May I offer a soothing mantra? Sure, Victoria said, waving a hand in resigned amusement. Remember, entropy is inevitable, but so is growth. Stars collapse, but they also shine. And sometimes it's okay to just orbit for a while. The bridge was quiet. Then Jimmy sniffled. I don't know why, but I really needed that. Watson stood up. Captain, I think we should designate Kevin as an official emotional support singularity. Seconded, Rodriguez muttered, wiping his eyes. Victoria exhaled. Fine. Kevin, welcome aboard. Just try not to absorb our temporal stabilizers. Kevin glowed brighter. I will try my very best. Suddenly, another alert popped up. Captain, Maya called. We're receiving multiple requests from other sectors. Species want to speak to Kevin. Apparently word's gotten out that we have an emotionally supportive black hole. Jimmy laughed. The universe is lonely, Captain. Well, Victoria said with a wry smile, then let's give it someone to talk to. She stood, addressing her crew. Make contact with the Stellar Psychological Council. Tell them Earth is volunteering Kevin for galactic support services. We'll rotate him around sectors with opt-in therapy sessions. You want to franchise the black hole? Rodriguez asked. I want to help the universe work through its problems before one of those problems rips reality in half. She replied. Jimmy raised his mug. To Kevin! To Kevin! The crew echoed. Kevin hummed deeply. I have never had friends before. Thank you. As the UES Irreverent continued its journey, trailed by a slow, friendly singularity radiating compassion and a touch of gentle gravitational pull, Victoria leaned back in her chair. You know, she muttered to herself, this is still better than that time the warp drive developed imposter syndrome. Captain Victoria Drake's quarters had seen many strange mornings, but this one took the caffeine-infused biscuit. The chronometer by her bed blinked cheerfully in emoji. Grimacing face, 7 o'clock, hot beverage. She groaned. Computer, she muttered, time, please. In numbers. A beat. Then, reluctantly, time is a flat circle, Captain, but currently it's 0703. Victoria sat up. Her slippers had migrated to the far end of the room again, probably sentient guilt after stepping on Maya's foot yesterday. With a sigh, she got up and made her way to the replicator, which was sulking. No coffee until you apologize, it intoned. She blinked. Excuse me? You left your cup in engineering yesterday. I felt abandoned. She stared at it. I've downloaded 3 therapy modules and a playlist called Coping with Cold Cabinets. It added helpfully. Fine. She reached for a mug. I'm sorry. Truly. Now give me caffeine, or I will reassign you to work with the airlock AI. You remember the airlock AI? The replicator shuddered and promptly dispensed coffee. Minutes later, Victoria stepped onto the bridge of the irreverent and was greeted by the sound of frustrated sighs and a smell not unlike burnt rubber. Report, she called. Lieutenant Rodriguez was massaging his temples. Gravity's on strike. There was a silence. Come again. He pointed at the main display. The Universal Gravitational Constant filed a complaint overnight. It's refusing to work until we acknowledge its unappreciated emotional labor. Victoria stared at the readout. Sure enough, objects in the cargo bay were just floating, not weightless exactly, more like passively defiant. A crate of ration packs was hovering 6 inches above the floor, holding a tiny protest sign, Respect Mass Attraction. Chief Engineer Watson looked about ready to throw herself into a malfunctioning capacitor. We've been compensating with inertia dampeners, but the coffee in the mess hall is now orbiting itself. Of course it is, Victoria muttered. How widespread is this? Rodriguez frowned. Limited to our vessel, for now. But according to QuantumCom chatter, other ships are reporting similar symptoms. Gravity might be unionizing. Victoria pinched the bridge of her nose. Tell me the ethics committee hasn't weighed in yet. Rodriguez winced. They sent a request that we consider gravitational trauma through a holistic framework. Also, they're drafting a Bill of Rights for space-time. Jimmy, ever the optimist, offered from the navigation console. On the bright side, Captain, the black hole we encountered last week just sent us a fruit basket. Apparently, it appreciated our empathic telemetry. It sent us what? Well, technically it created a micro-singularity filled with ripe bananas, which dematerialized on entry. But it's the thought that counts. Okay, Victoria breathed. Let's break this down. Gravity's on strike. The replicator is emotionally needy. Time is expressing itself in emojis. What's next? As if summoned by a higher power, perhaps sarcasm itself, the ship's AI chirped. Captain, you have a visitor. Unless it's causality here to apologize, tell them to wait. There was a pause. It's causality, Captain. The bridge fell silent. The lights dimmed slightly, and a glowing humanoid avatar shimmered into view. It looked vaguely like a librarian constructed from hourglasses and infinite regression. Hello, it said, its voice echoing across past, present, and future. I've come to file a formal complaint. Of course you have, Victoria said flatly. Let me guess, our antics with the nope drive are making you feel out of order? Exactly, the avatar intoned. Yesterday occurred next Tuesday. Wednesday keeps showing up twice. And Friday has started a side hustle as a poet. Jimmy winced. Yikes. And don't even get me started on Schrodinger's cat. That therapist has been aggressively trying to schedule a group session between gravity, entropy, and the weak nuclear force. No one can agree on a time, because time is pouting. Victoria blinked. So you want us to what, fix it? No, said Causality. I want a coffee and a hug. Victoria blinked again. Replicator, she said. Coffee. Strong. Extra validation. The machine dispensed a steaming cup, which floated into the avatar's hands. Causality sipped, sighed, and visibly relaxed. Thank you. Also, please stop telling particles they can do anything they set their minds to. They're starting to interpret quantum superposition as a lifestyle. Noted. Rodriguez turned from his console, eyes wide. Captain, incoming message from the Galactic Core Council. They want us to report on the psychological state of reality. Victoria raised an eyebrow. What did you tell them? That reality's currently journaling and might be unavailable. Accurate, she muttered. Okay, let's triage this. Jimmy stabilized navigation with a fixed-point entropy bracer. Rodriguez, write a strongly worded letter to Gravity explaining the importance of showing up for work. Watson, coax the coffee maker into confidence mode. I'll handle Causality. Again, Jimmy said. Again, Victoria confirmed, standing. As she left the bridge, the chronometer updated itself. Grimacing face, hot beverage neutral face, chart decreasing, right arrow, rainbow. She stared at it. Now it's doing story arcs, she muttered. Captain, Rodriguez called. What's the plan if space itself asks for mental health leave? Victoria didn't even pause. We'll write it a note and send it some chocolate. That's what you do when someone's spiraling. The bridge fell into quiet laughter. In a universe unraveling not from violence or entropy, but awkwardness, feelings, and too many therapy sessions, humanity marched on with a grin, a quirked eyebrow, and an industrial-sized cup of coffee. Captain Victoria Drake stared at the comms display as it bloomed into view like a glitter bomb in zero gravity. Floating in the hollow projection was what looked suspiciously like an emotionally overwhelmed supernova wrapped in a shawl of solar winds. Greetings, children of Earth, it cooed, voice echoing across multiple frequencies, including one that made the ship's self-cleaning system hum along in harmony. I am a Modigan, stellar counselor of the United Union of Galactic Entities for Existential Reassurance. Jimmy leaned over from his station, deadpan. Captain, I think we've just been contacted by the universe's feelings department. Is this about the paperwork we filed last week? Victoria asked cautiously, because Causality blackmailing us into a mandatory wellness seminar was not our fault. It brought its own coffee. Imodigan shimmered brighter. No, dear ones, this is bigger. The stars have formed a support group. They call it Lumina, light together, heal forever, and they've asked for humanity to send a representative. The bridge fell silent. Somewhere in engineering, the AI responsible for SARCASM response protocols muttered, "Of course they did. What exactly are they seeking support for?" Victoria finally asked, already regretting everything. Imodigan gestured with a gentle solar flare. They're struggling with their roles, being burning balls of hydrogen for billions of years with no say in their destiny. Now that you've made space-time socially aware, the stars want options. Like what? Asked Maya from Sensors. Mood lighting. They've begun questioning whether constant nuclear fusion is truly their path, Imodigan explained. One star, Zolera 93, wants to be a poet. Another has stopped fusing altogether, and now identifies as a cool jazz nebula. Captain, Jimmy said, this may be the first time in history stellar burnout is literal. Rodriguez chuckled. Next thing you know, constellations will unionize. They already have, Imodigan said softly. The Orion arm is currently picketing for recognition rights. They refuse to align with outdated mythologies. Victoria pinched the bridge of her nose. Let me guess. Polaris wants a sabbatical. No. Polaris just wants to be seen as more than a navigational crutch. She's taken up interpretive dance. The silence that followed was broken by the coffee machine percolating in agreement. So why us? Victoria asked. Why does humanity get to babysit the feelings of the cosmos? Because you broke it, Imogen replied, smile unwavering. You taught black holes how to flirt and dark matter how to express emotional suppression through gravitational lensing. The universe isn't just reacting, it's self-reflecting. And what's the plan? Galactic therapy retreats, stargazing circles where stars confess their internal fusion struggles. Exactly. Imogen sparkled. We are hosting the first intergalactic day of celestial self-discovery next cycle. There will be reflective nebula painting, solar flare journaling, and an open mic event for exoplanets with abandonment issues. Rodriguez raised a brow. Do we at least get snacks? There will be cosmic brownies. Imogen winked. You invented them. Victoria sighed and reached for her increasingly sentient coffee mug. Fine. Tell the support group Earth is in. But we're sending Jimmy. He does best with confused, omnipotent entities. Jimmy looked mildly offended. Why me? You once emotionally counseled a sentient asteroid into taking up performance art, she reminded him. And you're the only one here who can get a black hole to open up without crying. Fair, Jimmy muttered. Just then, the console lit up with a transmission from the Andromeda cluster. Oh, Maya muttered. They say the sentient quasars are requesting couples therapy. Apparently, they're codependent and jealous of spiral galaxies. Victoria downed her coffee. Let's add that to the agenda. And the twin pulsars from the Zeta Loop. Maya added, what about them? They've gone emo. Send them our MySpace archives, Jimmy said with a straight face. Victoria stood. All right, everyone. You heard the stellar counselor. We're now not just exploring the galaxy. We're emotionally regulating it. Strap in, hydrate, and for the love of physics, nobody tell the moons. They're still in denial about tides. As the crew set to work organizing the most heartfelt star therapy session the universe had ever known, Victoria opened her private log. Captain's log, supplemental, the stars have feelings. And they've formed a support group. I can't decide if this is humanity's greatest achievement or just Tuesday. Either way, we're making history one group hug at a time. The UES Irreverent was currently orbiting a star system shaped like a giant interstellar shrug. Literally, the gravity waves themselves rippled with energy. Commander Jimmy O'Connor swore the local asteroid belt had started rotating in a pattern that resembled a raised eyebrow, which naturally was when Doc returned. The starboard holoprojector shimmered with the glowing, bespectacled form of Dr. Schrodinger's cat, now rebranded as Doc Quantum, interdimensional therapist at large. Captain Drake, the floating feline paradox, said, its tail vibrating in 12 directions. I'm afraid we need your assistance again. The universe has developed codependent quantum fields. Victoria groaned and set down her latest report, a beginner's guide to encouraging black holes to respect personal space. What now? She asked. Don't tell me gravity and electromagnetism are in couples counseling. They're in denial, Doc replied. But the real issue lies with the Planck constant. It's begun comparing itself unfavorably to pi, and is experiencing an identity crisis. Pi is irrational, Rodriguez noted. Exactly, Doc said. And Planck constant doesn't think it's weird enough to matter anymore. Victoria stared at the hollow. Are we actually having a conversation about the self-esteem of mathematical constants? We are, Jimmy said, tossing a stress ball at the wall and catching it in sync with a now sentient metronome. And why us? She asked again. Why is it always us? Because your crew broke reality and keeps offering it emotional support, Doc replied. Besides, your engineering deck has already been transformed into a therapeutic environment. We're calling it the quantum comfort zone. Victoria narrowed her eyes. Watson. Chief Engineer Watson's voice came over the comm. Yup, I may have let the particle stabilizer sign up for mindfulness training. We had leftover scented candles. You installed scented candles in engineering? They're calibrated to emit gravitational equilibrium vibes. Victoria sighed. And the warp core sleeps better now. Fine, she muttered. What exactly do you need from us this time? Doc leaned in, or rather, his waveform did. We need you to host a multi-layered, interdimensional group therapy session in your ship's cargo bay. We've invited the anthropomorphized forms of entropy, causality, uncertainty, and that one rogue math function that insists it's a person. You mean Steve? Jimmy asked. Yes, Doc said with gravity. Steve. He's in a mood. Rodriguez looked up from his console. Captain, uncertainty just arrived. It's waiting in the hallway, but it's not sure if it should knock. Let it in, Victoria said. Gently. Moments later, the cargo bay of the Irreverent was converted into something that resembled both a meditation dojo and a blackboard exploding with paradoxes. At the center sat chairs arranged in a circle, a therapy rug made of metaphysical foam, and a refreshment table serving emotion-infused tea. Doc hovered in front of the gathered entities. Welcome, everyone. Today's goal is learning to exist in harmony without collapsing probability fields. Entropy slouched in its beanbag chair, shedding glittering disorder flakes that ate through the floor plating. Causality wore a badge that read, I was here first, and Steve the Rogue function had taken the form of a swirling tattoo on someone's coffee cup. Victoria watched from the side, sipping her drink cautiously. What the hell is in this? Feelings, Jimmy said, already halfway through his second cup. Doc raised a paw. Let's begin. Entropy, why don't you start? Entropy oozed into a speaking posture. No one appreciates me. I'm not a villain, I'm just inevitable. But everyone blames me when their leftovers spoil or when universes unravel. A universal sob echoed from across dimensions. I get it, said Causality, who wore an ancient robe stitched with the words, as a result. I try to maintain order, and everyone says I'm too rigid. I don't want to be the bad guy. I just want timelines to make sense. Uncertainty blinked in and out of their chair. I think, maybe, I support you? Possibly. Steve spun violently, then announced, I just want to be a real boy. Rodriguez leaned toward Jimmy. Is this helping? Jimmy glanced around. We've got fundamental forces working through their emotional baggage in a spaceship lounge. This is either the beginning of a galactic renaissance or the end of causality as we know it. Captain, Watson's voice came over the comm. Engineering just got a love letter from Entropy. It's written in crayon. And static. Send it flowers, Victoria said without hesitation. Roses. Entropy seems like a roses type. The session reached a bizarre crescendo when Steve stood up and gave a speech on the importance of irrationality in a deterministic cosmos. Everyone clapped, including the ship's AI, which had manifested a holographic form solely to attend therapy. It wore a lab coat and held a clipboard that read working through my syntax issues. Doc concluded the meeting with a tail flip and a warm nod. Today, we've made progress. The universe is slowly healing, thanks to your efforts. And the chaos? Victoria asked. Still here, Doc said, but now it has a sense of humor. As the entities dissipated, and the cargo bay quietly resumed being a storage unit for paradox-proof vacuum containers, Victoria slumped back into her chair and muttered her log into a floating recorder. Captain's log, stardate, emotionally calibrated. Today, We help the universe work through its daddy issues. Again, I don't know if we're the Federation's most advanced diplomatic force or a floating interdimensional counseling center. Either way, the next time someone says, "We broke the universe," I'm going to say, "No, we gave it a hug." There were very few things that could surprise Captain Victoria Drake anymore. They had already survived the infamous Jenga wormhole incident, politely declined a marriage proposal from a time-traveling black hole, and once talked a sentient asteroid out of starting a rock-based religion. But none of that prepared her for what awaited in Cargo Bay 3B that morning. "Why are there pillows growing out of the floor?" she asked, sipping coffee. Watson blinked innocently. "They're entropy bloom clusters." Apparently, entropy got really into comfort after our last session. Commander Jimmy O'Connor ducked as a floating cushion drifted overhead and gently attempted to smother him with affection, and the glowing wall that keeps whispering motivational affirmations. "That's uncertainty," Watson explained. "It's trying to build self-esteem. Every 10 minutes, it reminds you that your path is valid even if you don't know where it leads." Victoria sighed and stepped carefully around a beanbag chair that tried to initiate a conversation. "Fine, but if thermodynamics starts handing out live, laugh, collapse posters, I'm spacing something." "Too late," said Rodriguez from the bridge over comms. "It just decorated the mess hall. Also, someone taught causality how to knit. It made you a scarf." "Why?" she asked, already knowing the answer. "It said your timeline looked cold." Great, she thought, reality's now actively accessorizing. Before she could issue any containment orders, the main view screen activated, revealing Doc Quantum's fuzzy waveform. "Captain, good news. We've located the source of the emotional ripple anomaly in quadrant SP42. "That's good news?" she asked skeptically. "Relatively," Doc nodded. "It turns out a minor alternate dimension you accidentally created during the Nope Drive's social anxiety calibration test has folded in on itself. It now manifests as a sentient emotional landscape." "A sentient, emotion-based dimension?" Jimmy repeated, staring blankly. "It's calling itself feeling space," Doc confirmed. "It has anxiety." "Of course it does," Victoria muttered. "It's also requesting diplomatic recognition," Doc added. "It's taken the form of a giant, glowing nebula shaped like a sad puppy wrapped in a galaxy-sized hoodie." Rodriguez pulled up an image of it on the bridge screen. "Oh no," Jimmy whispered. "It looks like it needs a hug." Victoria was already donning her diplomatic uniform, the one with sequined shoulder pads and empathy-reactive boots. "All right," she said, "prep the ship for transit. And somebody tell the AI to stop practicing slam poetry in the main corridor. It's throwing off the hull harmonics again." As the irreverent warped toward feeling space, the crew braced for contact with what might be the galaxy's most emotionally fragile sentient terrain. They were greeted by a gently pulsating mist that smelled faintly of hot cocoa and rejection letters. "Captain," came a soft, uncertain voice through every speaker on the ship. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to exist so loudly." Jimmy blinked. Did the dimension just apologize for having feelings? "Yes," Doc said from the monitor. "It's internalized humanity's emotional patterns." Victoria took a deep breath and stepped up to the comm. "Feeling space, this is Captain Drake of the UES Irreverent. You don't have to apologize for existing. Trust me, we're very used to emotional consequences that shouldn't logically exist." There was a pause. Then, "Really?" "Absolutely," she said. "Half my crew is in therapy with a quantum cat. We've traumatized the laws of physics. And last week our coffee machine had an existential breakdown because it couldn't tell if it was more filter or flavor." Rodriguez nodded solemnly. "He's better now. We gave him decaf. The nebula pulsed brighter. Do you think I could be something more? Like maybe an emotional sanctuary. Watson was already calculating containment field harmonics. We could help stabilize you, turn feeling space into a safe zone. A rest stop for tired minds. Doc floated in enthusiastically. Yes, a therapeutic nebula with meditation zones, cuddle meteorites, and anti-cringe gravity wells. Victoria smiled. We'll call it the Folded Heart, a pocket dimension dedicated to emotional recovery. And snacks, Jimmy added. Obviously snacks, she agreed. With feeling space mood lifting, literally, its spectral clouds formed encouraging thumbs up. The ship began offloading comfort generators, reality cushions, and confidence-boosting particles. Entropy helped distribute the pillows. Causality wrote a motivational novel about inevitability. Even Steve, the rogue math function, composed a lullaby. Within hours, feeling space stabilized. Visitors began arriving from across the galaxy. Burnt-out diplomats, therapy-seeking androids, and one rather shaken-up comet that just wanted to talk things through. Captain Drake watched from the observation deck, sipping a cup of cocoa as quantum snowflakes fell upward across the window. Well, she said softly, we turned an unstable, emotional anomaly into a spa for the cosmos. Jimmy grinned beside her. You know, for a ship of physics defiers and probability punks, we're doing some real good. Don't let it go to your head, she warned. Next week, we're hosting an interspecies support group for time travelers who feel left behind. They clinked mugs. The UES Irreverent hovered just outside the emotionally charged coordinates of the Hughes singularity, a recently formed cosmic phenomenon resulting from too many comforting gestures occupying the same quantum space. It glowed warmly in hues of lavender and neon periwinkle, pulsing with waves of calm and what astrophysicists now called affectional gravity. Several crew members had reported involuntary smiling when passing near it, while the ship's coffee mugs had begun hugging each other when not in use. Captain Victoria Drake stared at the anomaly on the main screen, arms folded, expression unreadable. Behind her, Commander Jimmy O'Connor sat at the helm with a calming lavender blanket over his shoulders, sipping tea that refused to cool down, seemingly out of concern for his comfort. So, it happened again, Jimmy said quietly, as if afraid to raise his voice too much near the singularity. Victoria nodded. We weaponized comfort. It wasn't intentional. We just accidentally created a gravitational anomaly powered by the shared need for emotional support. Lieutenant Rodriguez looked up from his console. The Hughes singularity is also emitting universal frequency purrs. Our comm systems now sound like a deeply content cat every time we patch through. It's also attracting nearby fleets, said Watson, pulling up a tactical overlay. Not to attack, to feel better. The Vrelian doom cruisers are forming a cuddle conga line. Victoria sighed deeply. Of course they are. A small ping drew everyone's attention. A message arrived from the Galactic Bureau of Emotional Stability. Urgent, please cease manufacturing large-scale psychosomatic phenomena. The laws of cosmic neutrality are getting overwhelmed, and our department cat is now permanently affectionate. Victoria raised an eyebrow. They have a department cat. They did. It's now a department emotional support director. Rodriguez muttered. Captain, Maya Patel said from navigation, we're also receiving subspace poetry from the Relian Collective. It's all haikus about inner peace. One of them ends with the line, your aura fixes my weapons-grade trauma. Victoria looked like she aged 10 years in 5 seconds. Can we at least quantify this? Get some metrics? Rodriguez nodded. The Hughes singularity is increasing local spatial cohesion. Ships in its range form accidental alliances. One Vexian battlecruiser just apologized to itself and started sending empathy waves to nearby comets. Watson glanced up. Sir, permission to speak freely? Please. I think the universe is falling in love with us. A moment of silence. Then a door hissed open, and Doc, the quantum cat and certified universal therapist, floated in wearing a bow tie woven from time strings and holding a clipboard. I sensed someone expressing profound emotional irony. He said with a purr that echoed in fractal dimensions. That usually means you need a session. We're fine, Victoria muttered. You named a singularity after physical affection. You're not fine, Doc replied kindly. But that's okay. The universe isn't either. Great, Jimmy said. So what do we do? Doc's eyes glowed in multiple directions. We ride it out. Let the hug singularity run its course. It's becoming a fixed point in galactic psychology. Soon, ships will file emotional health checklists along with flight plans. Victoria sank into her chair. We started all this by trying to build a drive that nopes out of awkwardness. And now, said Doc, curling his tail around the air thoughtfully, you've taught the galaxy that vulnerability is strength, empathy is propulsion, comfort is strategic. Rodriguez looked up. The Galactic Council is now debating whether all diplomatic negotiations must occur within hug singularity range to maximize cooperation. Because of course they are, Victoria muttered. Then, a blip on the screen. A new signal. A massive, ancient ship entered hug singularity space. Its hull bore the markings of the lost Tormari Empire, previously thought extinct. The signal was brief. We've been hiding for eons. But this is warm. May we join? Victoria whispered. Jimmy, is that a... Yup. An emotionally repressed precursor race just asked if they could vibe with us. Tell them yes, she said softly, as the hug singularity pulsed stronger, and more vessels joined the orbit. The Irreverent found itself at the epicenter of a galactic convergence, not of war, but of something stranger. Comfort, redemption, and weirdly therapeutic cuddle science. Victoria finally stood. Prepare to expand the hospitality field. And someone tell Spacetime we're going to need more mugs. The command bridge of the UES Irreverent had seen many things. Temporal mishaps, physics-defying drive tests, diplomatically awkward moments that rewrote entire galactic first contact handbooks. But this was new. Captain Victoria Drake stood quietly at the center of the bridge, arms folded, observing the surreal sight projected on the main holographic display. Entire alien fleets, vessels once poised for aggression, now slowly spiraling together in synchronized, affectionate maneuvers. Some looked like they were doing interpretive orbital hugs. Others sent messages comprised solely of warm colors and comforting shapes. The hug singularity, the affectionate result of humanity's most recent accidental invention, was pulsing at the center of it all, radiating waves of unconditional acceptance. Behind her, Jimmy reclined in his chair, sipping tea under a lavender anxiety reduction blanket. Doc the quantum cat floated beside him in therapist mode, gently exuding emotional support and particle purrs. I still can't believe we created the interstellar equivalent of a group therapy circle by weaponizing emotional vulnerability, Jimmy muttered, eyebrows raised. Victoria smirked. You say weaponized. I say strategically implemented. Emotional disarmament is still disarmament. Across the bridge, crew members monitored signals from across the quadrant. Reports of ceasefires, collaborative poetry exchanges, and panspecies cuddle treaties flooded the comms. Even the Galactic Insurance Consortium had issued a memo declaring a temporary waiver on war-related damages due to the ongoing interstellar hugging event. It's not just the local fleets, Rodriguez reported from comms, struggling to keep a straight face. We've got word from the Harmonious Collective. Their Starforges have stopped producing dreadnoughts and switched to crafting musical wind chimes. Of course they have, Victoria said flatly. Nothing says galactic unity like musical wind chimes. Watson, the ship's engineer, looked up from her console. Captain, the emotional resonance field is stabilizing, but there's a minor issue. Of course there is, Victoria replied. Go on. The ship's AI has developed an unhealthy attachment to our main reactor. It's been writing it poetry. Is it good poetry? Jimmy asked, raising an eyebrow. Watson shrugged. Shockingly heartfelt. A little clingy, though. Victoria sighed, then smiled. Let's schedule a session with document. One for the AI, one for us all. This whole galaxy might need to talk about its feelings for a while. Just then, a message pinged through. Text only. No threat. No formal diplomacy. Just one sentence from the previously hostile Zarnathi Empire. We're sorry. We didn't know your species had so many layers. A second message arrived seconds later from the Relian Concordat. Do you have room in your Cuddle Meteor Sanctuary for guests? Victoria grinned. Rodriguez, prep a response. Tell them we have room for all. And if they bring Coco, they'll get prime Nebula viewing seats. The crew chuckled, some genuinely moved. After so many cycles of conflict, misunderstanding, and absurdity, perhaps this reckless emotional honesty was what the universe had needed all along. Captain, Maya called, incoming transmission from Earth. They want to know how we plan to explain the Hug singularity to the Galactic Council. Victoria rubbed her temples, then turned toward the main display, which now showed an orbital ballet between 3 different species ships, all twinkling in synchronized pulses of affection. Tell them we're invoking Protocol 12B. Isn't that the one where we claim it was all an unintentional side effect of quantum beam radiation? Jimmy asked. Exactly. And if they press further. Victoria hit a button. The display behind her shifted to show a giant, animated version of Doc, the quantum cat, holding a heart-shaped black hole. We send them this. The bridge burst into laughter, the sound echoing across the ship as Irreverent turned toward its next mission, unifying the galaxy through well-timed emotional breakdowns, absurd science, and whatever came after group hugs powered by quantum singularities. Because if humanity had taught the universe one thing, it was this. Sometimes the most powerful force in the cosmos wasn't destruction or conquest or even science. It was the courage to be emotionally ridiculous, spectacularly empathetic, and wildly, unapologetically human. And in a galaxy now learning to feel, laugh, and cuddle, that made all the difference.